Alright, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to be playing a really fun jam style rhythm that's played using just 2 chords. Believe it or not, the same 2 chords are repeated, but we're going to look at 4 different neighborhoods of the fretboard, 4 different regions. And the whole point of this is to get you playing all over the fretboard so that when you're playing rhythm, you're not stuck down in first position playing those cowboy chords with open strings, but instead you're able to play all over the fretboard, add some fill licks to your rhythm, and really sort of enhance it that way. And it just makes playing so much more fun, and it makes it sound a lot better. And so in this video, we're going to go through all the lesson material for this. We're also going to talk about the strum pattern with the right hand. Now, if you'd like to get the extra material that comes with this lesson, the tablature for everything, and the MP3 jam track, which I have multiple tempo versions, so there's a slower version as well. There's also a version of this in a different key with tablature so that you can practice playing all of this in a totally separate key. And that's really all just designed to help you really understand what we're talking about here. So you can get those extras by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP499. All right, so let's listen to that first neighborhood, the first little zone that we played in, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so this jam track is played in the key of F sharp, and there's 2 chords. There's an F sharp and a B. Just those 2 chords, a F sharp and a B. Now, the first neighborhood we're going to be in is right here, and this is using 2 of the shapes out of the cage system. So this F sharp chord is played using the E shape. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the E shape. These 3 fingers are making up what would be, you know, your good old E chord down in first position, but if you slide it up 2 frets, you're playing an F sharp. So that's our 1 chord, and then we're going to be playing the 4 chord of that chord. So that would be our B chord, and that's using the A shape from the cage system. So our E shape and our A shape. F sharp chord, B chord. Now, how do I know that that's an F sharp chord? Well, this is where the string note names come into play. And what I'm doing is I'm using the string name from our first string here. So that's 2nd fret, 1st string. That's where I'm barring. I know that that's an F sharp note. Therefore, that's an F sharp chord. So if I wanted to play an A chord using this same shape, I would find my A note on the 1st string, which would be on the 5th fret. I'd bar, and then I'd be playing an A major chord there. So that's my F sharp chord. We'll talk about the B in a minute, but let's talk about this strum pattern here. So the first thing I want you to do is pay attention to my right hand. So you can see what's going on is I'm going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and I never break that rhythm. It just happens the whole time. Whether I'm playing something or making a sound or not, my hand stays in motion. That's the key to the whole thing for keeping this rhythm. So you're going to want to start off by just muting. You don't even have to make a chord with your left hand, but just mute that left hand and play this. Just try and go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Just try and get a fluid motion like that. Now here's what's cool about this motion once it gets going. Is you can make your chord like this, and when I squeeze with my left hand to make the chord, that's when you hear the sound. So watch this. You have squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. So I'm squeezing to make that chord when I want it to ring out. Otherwise, I'm releasing, but keeping my fingers in position so that I get the muted sound. Let me do that slowly so you can get that motion. See the squeeze with the left hand? Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And that's what I'm doing for this first neighborhood here as I'm playing that F sharp chord, the B chord. Now the second time through I went little embellishment off of that B. Instead of me playing the B chord like this, I went. So I just replaced where my pinky was, which was on the 4th fret. And I use my index finger instead. And I'm only playing on strings 4 and 3 here. And I do a hammer on to the 6th fret, 4th string. But you can see my right hand stays in motion. So it's down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up. So when we put it together, first time is like that, second time, so much fun to do once you get the rhythm going. And when you get the slow version of the jam track, it's played at 80 beats a minute, so it's about that tempo. It's much slower and allows you to really get the groove going. Then you can work up to the faster tempo version. Okay, so that's Neighborhood 1. The next thing that happens is I come up to here. Now I'm still playing an F sharp chord, but I'm playing in a different neighborhood now. We've sort of switched gears. We're moving into a different region of the fretboard. Now when I'm playing that F sharp chord up here, I'm playing out of the C shape. So now my 3 fingers are making up what would be the C chord in first position. But I don't need to do that. I don't need to use my pinky. I just need to, it makes it much easier to play just strings 4, 3, and 2. That little triad there, that's going to be my F sharp triad that I'm going to use. And I slide into that with my ring finger. So remember we were playing that embellishment off the B chord. It makes it so easy to take my ring finger and on this 4th string here, go from the 6th fret, slide up to the 8th fret, and then I go ahead and bar on the 6th fret, strings the first 4 strings, and my middle finger comes down on that 7th fret 2nd string, and I play that F sharp triad up here. But you can see where that's coming from. It's coming from the C shape. Now, how do I know that's an F sharp here? Remember when we played it here, I knew it was an F sharp because the note name on my 1st string. But when I'm up in this position, playing this triad, it's the name of the note on my 2nd string. So that's my F sharp note, which is my 7th fret 2nd string. So 2nd fret 1st string, there's your F sharp here. 7th fret 2nd string, same note, just played in a different position. And hopefully you can see how that note relates to your C chord shape. Now remember, it's an F sharp chord, but using the C shape. So the note name on your 2nd string versus the note name on your 1st string. Okay, so I slid into that. And then for my B chord, I came down here and just barred the first 4 strings on the 4th fret and played strings 4, 3, and 2. Played this triad. So I'm playing a triad here on strings 4, 3, and 2, and a triad here on 4, 3, and 2. Now this triad we've already utilized really. When we played Neighborhood 1, my pinky was barring there. Now I was playing the A chord shape for that B chord, but that's the triad inside of it. So when I was playing this with my index finger, I'm really just hitting that same triad. But you can think, if we're thinking cage system, this would be more like your G shape. I don't want to lose anybody here, but that G shape is that impossible one to make that nobody actually ever plays all together. But you can think in terms of just visually what's going on there. That would be like your G shape. So what I played then was this. Same strum pattern, that never changes. And just remember, we're playing strings 4, 3, and 2 when we play this. That's the first time through. Second time. Little embellishment there. By adding the 5th fret 2nd string, it works well with that triad. It turns it into a sus4 chord. So you do that every other time. So I'm thinking of this as sort of neighborhood 2 or region 2. So you have region 1, then you have region 2. All right, so now the next neighborhood is up in this position. So remember, we were playing our F sharp chord using the C shape, right? Now I only played strings 4, 3, and 2 out of it. But what if I played strings 3, 2, and 1? It would look like that. Now that's the same triad as your D shape in first position, but you can see that that's also part of your C shape. Hopefully, that's confusing to a lot of folks, but if you look in your C chord in first position, and you look at strings 1, 2, and 3, the shape, nut, first fret, nut, it's already making that D shape. So when you make your D chord, you're really using that C shape. It's just kind of one of those things that it took me years to kind of realize that. But anyway, I don't want to lose you on that. Here's what we're doing though, chord-wise, is for this F sharp, we're playing it here. So it's our D-looking triad there with my ring finger on that 7th fret 2nd string. And remember, we said that 7th fret 2nd string is an F sharp note. So when I'm playing this chord shape, that note tells me the name of my chord. So if I wanted to play an E chord using that D triad, I find my E note on the 2nd string, which would be here. That's an E chord, right? Okay, so there's my F sharp. And then for the 4 chord, I went to the nearest neighbor here, which would be my B chord here, using the E shape. So you can see we're just going to repurpose these shapes. We're just playing them in different spots. Remember, we started with the F sharp using the E shape. Now we're playing with the B chord using the E shape. So we have... Now, I'm not playing all 6 strings. I don't need to. I'm just playing the first 4 strings out of that. So we have that. So it's our F sharp to our B. And how do I know that that's a B chord? Because that's a B note, that first string. Therefore, that's a B chord. Hopefully you're starting to see the logic here. It's just repurposing the same chords. So we have F sharp, B. And I did a little embellishment with my pinky since it's free here. That's another reason I don't like to use all 6 strings. I like to use the first 4. My pinky's free to do little embellishments. So I'm playing the 9th fret 2nd string. That's the first embellishment. And then I go back to my F sharp chord and I come back to my B shape here and do a different embellishment. Pinky goes down the same fret, that 9th fret, but this time on the 1st string. So the first time it went 2nd string, the 2nd time it went on the 1st string. So when we're playing this 3rd neighborhood here, we're playing it like this. And notice those breaks there. When I'm doing the break, I keep the rhythm going. Let me do that slowly. You got to keep that hand in motion, otherwise you'll get lost if you slow it down or if you stop the strum on this style of playing. Okay, let's listen to that 4th neighborhood sound. So now I'm going to play my F sharp chord all the way up here. I'm going to bar the first 4 strings on the 11th fret, and my pinky's going to come up here to the 14th fret 1st string. And I'm playing an F sharp up in this position. Now you can even do this with a non-cutaway. You should be able to get your finger up there. But this F sharp chord is using the G shape from the cage system. Now, didn't we just talk about that? Oh yeah, remember when we were playing our B chord down here? We were playing it like this. Or actually, we were just playing this little triad. You can see the same things happening up here. And what did I say was the note name that told me that this was our B chord? It was the 3rd string, right? That's our B chord, therefore, that's my B triad. There's the G shape. So the same principle is true up here. So the 3rd string, that's my F sharp note. Therefore, that's my F sharp triad. And there's my F sharp chord using the G shape, the top part of that G shape. So when I strum that, I went like that. So I kept that shape with my pinky there, and I hammered on to the C shape. So I'm just repurposing these same shapes. So I'm just playing the top part of that C shape. When I hammer on there, my middle finger goes down on the 12th fret 2nd string, my ring finger goes down on the 13th fret 4th string. But hopefully you can see that I'm playing that C shape, just the top part of it now. That's what I did the first time. The second time, little embellishments, pretty much the same thing. The only difference is my ring finger, instead of playing on the 4th string, it played on the 3rd string, 13th fret. And I played that little bit on strings 2 and 3. So all together, this part goes. And for those of you that are playing along with a jam track, at this point you would just reset it and come all the way back down here to this neighborhood. So that's what these 4 neighborhoods look like. The important thing is for you to be able to find them. Now obviously we're playing an F sharp and a B chord, but you need to be able to find that F sharp. You don't have to necessarily start at one end and work your way up. That's just my example for this lesson, but you need to be able to just jump into any of these neighborhoods. And the only way you can really do that is to know the names of those notes on those first 3 strings. So then, for example, if I was looking for a G chord using the E shape, I just find my G note played on the 1st string, and therefore there's my G chord, right? Now if I wanted to play the G chord using that C shape, I need to find my G note on the 2nd string, which is up here. So now I can play that G chord up here. And I can use any of those same embellishments, sliding into it like that. And if I wanted to play it up here, I would need to find my G note on the 3rd string, which is up here. So this is just where you need to know the note names, at least on your first 3 strings, to be able to do this. I'll link to a lesson in the description below for those of you that are trying to learn the names of your notes on the various strings. I'll link to that below. It's just a quick guide for doing that, and it goes through that in sort of a systematic way. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this lesson and picked up a few tips for playing chords in different spots. And remember to keep that right hand in motion. That's the key to keeping this rhythm. You squeeze when you want the sound, and you release when you just want the muted strums. Okay, and remember, as a premium member, you'd have access to the slow version of the jam track for this key, for the F sharp key, and also the tablature and the jam track for playing all of this in the key of A. All right, we'll see you in the next video.